And get this Norwood City Council meeting called to order. If everyone can please rise for a moment of reflection in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Franzen.
Here.
Mrs. Hoover. Mr. Probbins.
Here.
Mrs. Bowling.
Here.
Mr. Moore.
Here.
Mr. Girton.
Here.
Ms. Sullivan.
Here.
We have 6 out of 7 members present this evening. Moving on to amendments to the agenda, we do have one. You should all have received an updated exhibit for ordinance N3, which is the updated numbers for the permanent appropriations. And the difference between the two, I guess the physical difference between the two, the revised version is printed on legal paper as opposed to the letter size that was included in your packet. Mr. Girton.
I make a motion to amend the agenda as stated.
Motion by Mr. Girton to amend the agenda. Is there a second? Mrs. Franzen.
I second.
Seconded by Mrs. Franzen. Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Franzen.
Yes.
Mr. Probbins.
Yes.
Mrs. Bowling.
Yes.
Mr. Moore.
Yes.
Mr. Girton.
Yes.
Ms. Sullivan.
Yes.
All members present voting yes, the motion carries. Moving on to minutes of previous meetings, we do have 3 sets of minutes. February 24th, March 10th, and March 13th, which was a special meeting. Mr. Girton.
Make a motion to receive and to accept the all 3 minutes as if read.
Motion to approve the minutes as if read, all 3 sets.
Yes, sir.
Mrs. Franzen.
I second.
Seconded by Mrs. Franzen. Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Franzen.
Yes.
Mr. Probbins.
Yes.
Mrs. Bowling.
Yes.
Mr. Moore.
Yes.
Mr. Girton.
Yes.
Ms. Sullivan.
Yes.
All members present voting yes, the motion carries. We do not have any requests to address council this evening. No. We also do not have any public hearings, but we do have one special presentation, and that is Mr. Mike Skelly with the Community Development Director. And just one brief reminder, with the changes to the rules of council, special presentations are limited to 15 minutes.
We knew Mike was coming.
Now, I've said this before.
Out of order.
Well, good evening. Thank you very much for this opportunity to present what I've been up to for the last 12 plus months. I'll try to make it fairly brief and give you both the high overview of what some of the major things are and also some of the details. So let's begin. What is community development and what pretty much do I do on a day-to-day basis? So there's really 4 components to community development. There's economic development, there's administrative and organizational development, essentially helping out other departments, trying to streamline certain things, a go-between different departments. Policy development, which definitely I do quite a bit of with regards to zoning, infrastructure policies, and then operations, which is primarily to me, what's tying this all together is land development, and more importantly, treating that as a finite resource and how's the best way we can plan for and proceed with protecting what we have. The next thing looking at are major assets as applies to the budget. And essentially, I'm a budget of 1 in terms of the department. It's primarily tied up with payroll and contractual obligations. Pretty much I serve as an advisory function. I help out the building department, public works. We also have contract with Alloy, Catherine Fitzgerald, you've probably met several times, and she helps quite a bit with tax abatements. And earlier, when I was talking about land development, the key thing is trying to help people, business owners, developers through the permit process, land development, and what's the best way to navigate that. I really do not have any major capital expenses, unlike other departments, in terms of vehicles, et cetera. What we do in terms of major projects is something that month to month, quarter to quarter, there's big ticket items we're going after. And recently, one of the biggest ones we just submitted a grant for, and I'll talk very briefly in a second, was the Norfolk Southern lands on the west side. There's approximately 16 plus acres, about 1.2 linear miles, and extending on the right slide, you'll see essentially the northern trail for Xavier, roughly where Mentor is, and then proceeding north, you look at then the left slide, continuing north on Sherman, and then it's bending west, essentially reaching up to Ross and Tennessee Avenue. So 2 slides roughly, we're looking at 16 acres. You can see it's a little bit more land to the south, and there's ample access with regards to the existing right-of-ways that we have throughout those neighborhoods. As I mentioned, we just recently submitted to the Ohio Department of Natural Resources a request for $402,000. That is based on the appraised value that we did. However, with regards to what Norfolk Southern is looking at, they're looking for at least a minimum $1 million. So we're committed to make up that difference. What are some of the key accomplishments? As I mentioned, there's a lot of land development. We had Factory 52 both in the last 12, 18 months in terms of phase 2, multicolor north and south, uptown properties, Sherman Oaks. I think I made a few months back a presentation for Ventura, the Allison School site. That's underway. We hope to have fairly good news fairly soon with regards to the developer proceeding with that. And as you can see, again, the last note dealing with various sort of projects, land use policy, in terms of looking at updating the planned unit development policies. You guys recently approved a streamlining aspect to that, but we still have additional policies concerning short-term rentals, group homes, etc. Another major project is that we're working on right now. I don't have any additional major things to share with the exception of the second bullet point, which I received from the consultant. And I'll spend a little bit of time with this. So from what we know right now, 76% of our local roads have an average PCI rating of 44. 55 is the cutoff from fair to poor. And as you can see from that chart on the left side, essentially poor is roughly coming in at the red mark. Talking further with consultants, so of that $27 million, $22 million is needed to restore all streets with a current PCI rating below 55. What's more important to realize, we talked about the capital expense just to fix up these roads. That does not even include what we'll probably need around probably $2 million just to do annual maintenance for these roads. So other accomplishments, not as time consuming, but we heard around December, we had an intern in, she was looking at the Worth Avenue business district that was rather small, around 3 acres. But for many years, we were trying to figure out what's the best fit for those uses, what can be done. what can we try to kind of fix up the blighted properties for that, and we're still looking into that. But that probably will be potentially something that we could discuss further in the next 12 months. In addition to that, not that it takes up a lot of time, but last year there was a lot of discussion of how to improve the dialogue, the outreach for the Chamber of Commerce. We're doing that. We're shifting to more kind of happy hours, but the chamber and collectively the group is still struggling to try to figure out what's the best way to kind of serve our clients, particularly the businesses. Now, we do have a lot of nonprofit, but it's been a struggle, a good 5 years, the best process. And more importantly, getting involved, whether it's the chamber or other people trying to explain why we do certain things. Sometimes people talk about red tape. Why is it there? How does it protect the city? And how can I further make the link to understand or at least be more appreciative of the process when we have these different policies? So returning to future goals, but as it relates to development sites, I'm going to quickly list the 6 major developments that we've worked on in the last 12 plus months. And all of these, pretty much the exception of the Trail House, dealt with PUDs. That potentially could have had a PUD, but the developer elected not to go through it. That went to the Planning Commission, but all those had quite a bit of dialogue early with the developer, how to proceed, both with the land development and the zoning. And the ones that are stricken, those ones have kind of graduated, essentially not only moving beyond planning side, but actually following the building permits, getting the building permits approved. And most of those you can actually see they're under construction right now. So continuing on to what we still have left to consider, one of the big sites, and there's some good news for that. I don't have all the facts that I can release, but we do have a future buyer for that. It's being finalized. It's very far along, at least in terms of the initial planning. It's progressing. It looks very promising, but unfortunately I can't disclose that yet. So hopefully soon we'll have that available. Another good thing, which I can release, so this has been delayed for at least 5+ years because the city of Cincinnati was essentially rather leery for releasing their subway easement. Mm-hmm. That now has gone through their law department. I confirmed that a couple weeks ago. It just needs to probably go to get their final approvals. And I suspect the developers will be doing backflips. That's been very, very tedious to get from the city. So that long-standing hurdle is now done, and we hope to see in the next few months the developer coming in, proceeding with the development. Yeah, sorry. So a slightly smaller development site, but one that people are quite aware of, is the Perry and Derrick site. So that's on the south side of Highland Avenue. You have Linden in the foreground, and you can see the collection of existing buildings. Just to mention, so those are there. This part of here where it was demolished, in addition to this, even opened up the access. So that was first approved a few years back from a grant from Hamilton County, and other good news recently for that. The port who owns it, they received about $750,000, which will go towards additional site readiness and removing the asbestos from that site. So the last one, which is our largest one we have, essentially the Norwood Plaza. It's 12.6 acres, and we were given a chance to look at the university's master plan. We were excited to see that. It's not really a public document, but I think it will probably benefit, obviously, the community and the university. speaking recently with them, they are obviously going through a demolition of the main structure. They will be retaining the eastern end, where essentially, I guess, the old Goodyear bays were, and that will be used for storage. But we do not have any midterm plans yet for that. So as soon as we do, that will be made public and passed along both to the Planning Commission and Council. So that's about it in terms of the development sites. In terms of policy projects, I really don't see at this point too much changing aside from what I mentioned. Obviously, the pavement condition study is going to require quite a bit of deliberation, because to me, it'll really fall onto revenues. What are we looking in the future? What can we get done? What's reasonable? And what will be a priority?
Look at that, you have 2 minutes and 30 seconds to spare.
Wow.
Let's try
Any
to-
questions?
Thank you.
Mr. Gurdon?
Thank you, Mr. Skelly. Last time, I believe I'm correct, you were here, we talked about the Allison Street project.
Correct.
Any update on where that stands?
Nothing yet. I talked to Ralph Wolf, who's the head of the adult department. He hasn't received plans yet. I know Ventura is still trying to figure out in terms of doing the calculations for the improvements, what can be financed, and obviously tied in with that, it's the relationship with the city, knowing when can we start work on the improvement of the water line, the streets, et cetera. So definitely the hope is that, again, 6 months maybe, we can have those things. But I think part of the issue, when I mentioned that one slide talked about PUDs, so that site is a PUD. I think it would benefit the city and everyone to have it go through that process. Ultimately, that would be a discretion for Ralph Wolf, but I can see there's a lot of benefits, and it might streamline things for the developer, but we don't have anything definite right now.
Thanks, sir.
Mrs. Franzen?
Thank you, Mr. Skelly. I've seen the plan for the Norwood Plaza, and I'm really excited to hopefully see that come to fruition. The question I had for you, you may not know, or this may not be public, the Frisch's site near Quality Inn, is that something that's going to be added on to the Quality Inn site, or has a separate person purchased that? I hadn't gotten an update on that.
Yeah, I really don't know, but I could find the answer for that and
Okay.
email it to you.
Yeah, people have asked, so I figured I'd ask you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
definitely, I'll find out.
Mr. Moore?
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Mr. Skelly. So just in terms of your office, you mentioned being a one-man shop, not necessarily having a big amount of capital projects or anything like that. If there were to be, let's say, hypothetically, a second person in your office, what would be the first couple things that you'd have them get to?
For me, it's really, there's a lot of interaction with the building department. So I think it's almost premature to say that until trying to find a better handle. How would they proceed? What are their biggest needs?
Sure.
In addition to, let's say, the land development side, talking to the safety service director, the mayor, as to what other special projects are out there. I have a decent background in a bunch of different things, so it's sometimes usually the best projects when there's a lot of excitement and whatever, but I think there's a lot of challenges for the city, and it's just a matter at this point with limited resources, where do we put our eggs in which basket, or maybe just distribute it equally for various things.
Mr. Moore?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm thinking about your road grading graphic that was up there and the different sort of color coding around that. I'm wondering if there is like any precedent or anything like that would apply in like a development context. And so I'll, by way of example, I'll say like Perry and Derrick and the Zumbiel sites right now are maybe like F grades, right? Because they're empty and been vacant. Maybe a B grade is Brookwood, which is 20 or so years old at this point. Is there anything like that we would sort of like inventory our sites and might almost get a little bit of a crystal ball into like areas that are kind of next in line, even maybe I don't know, 5-10 years, down the road?
Definitely. So when we did this study, it was written into the scope that we wanted to have the roads broken down by the classification, like how many trips, how many much traffic. Once we receive that report, it's more than just like metrics or math, in terms of who has the worst score and where do we focus. I think it ties into what neighborhoods really needed, what are the other capital works that are happening with the public works in terms of water line replacements, because to me, God forbid you would have a priority for a particular street that needs it, and then a year later, 2 years later, you're digging it up again to work. So to me, once we get that, I think there's going to be a layering of further other departments talking about what's necessary. And to me, I know you and I spoke quite a bit sometimes about density. Sometimes different roads, because of their use, how many people live on it, they might have a little bit more pressing need to get it done because the wear and tear might be a little bit more than what's expressing on the CR rating. So I would say once it's done, I think there's probably further insight, and again, politically, to look at what needs to be done, what neighborhoods. So notwithstanding what the rating is, how else can we look at that and give it a second, third, fine tuning of that?
Thank you.
Mr. Gurdon.
Mr. Skelly, if we can go back to, you don't need to move the slide, but if we can go back to the rating of the roads. If I understand your slide correctly, if we just had a sudden $27 million drop in the city, we could get all of the roads in a good condition. Am I understanding that correctly?
Essentially, it would get probably the worst ones done. But the ones that are satisfactory or, they need some attention, I don't think we would have the sufficient funds for that.
Okay.
So again, it's going to be, decent pill to swallow, but I think we could ask the engineers to further alternatives and however it's done, even look at areas. But I think it'll be a lot of, gnashing of teeth to look at the numbers and the financing it.
If I may follow up, Mr. President.
Mr. Gurdon.
Just to clarify for anybody that's paying attention, that's $27 million in today's money. That cost is surely going to go up if we take years to work on this. Is that correct?
Correct. And as you're hearing in the news today, essentially, if it's the Adam Road, it's made with oil, et cetera. So it's, putting that aside, even concrete's going up. So you're absolutely correct. That's the number right now.
Thank you, sir.
Other questions for Mr. Skelly? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
We have no reports of standing committees, so we will move on to administration reports. Mayor Schneider.
Thank you, Mr. President. First, I want to mention that there's a cleanup this weekend on Saturday. We'll be meeting at City Hall, and this is a litter cleanup, and part of it is our spring cleanup that we normally have, and there's different groups that have coordinated this, just to get the litter and all the stuff that's been out there through the winter and try to get the city looking good again. But of course, with the windstorms and all that stuff, we've even got more trash out there that's been blowing around. So that we're meeting at City Hall at 10 a.m. on Saturday. If you can make it to that, we'd be happy to have you here and happy to have your help. So then going through a couple of my notes, Mike Skelly brings a lot of expertise to the city, and he's great at digging through the numbers, pulling things together. He did a really great job putting together our grant application with the parks, and it's gonna. I hope that that ends up being fruitful. The American Legion is already starting to get ready for their Memorial Day celebration, and they had talked to me about putting up a banner across Montgomery Road to make sure everybody knows that they have a Memorial Day service at the park. They've been doing it for, I don't know, the last year or two, or maybe the last 30 years. But it's on Memorial Day, and they do a great job at it. Typically, it's right there in the morning. So keep that in mind when you're making your Memorial Day plans. One of the things that I received, well, let me go back to the Mike Skelly portion of it. Councilman, where you asked the question of what you would have a person do in that area, and right away off the top of my head, I look at all the streets or all that the buildings that we have on Montgomery Road that are facing Montgomery Road that look like they're vacant. And maybe they're vacant, but maybe they're used for storage, or maybe the person who has it doesn't want to put any money in it and they don't have the wherewithal to really make the connections. But I look at that and say that's something we would have a person working on, and they would be working specifically on those things and trying to put those connections together. I think at times we are sort of blessed. We have been blessed in the years past to have Alloy here in the Hamilton County Business Incubator, but we don't really see a ton of new businesses that come out of that that come into Norwood, that stay in Norwood. And I don't think that that's really, when I look at other communities, if you look at you look at Oakley, look at Hyde Park, look at all their storefronts, they're thriving. There's small businesses in there, there's entrepreneurs. You look at the market, and we've got many people that could start a small business in one of these if they had the connections and all. But somewhere we need to have those connections being made, and we haven't. Maybe as the mayor, I should have recognized that years ago and said, we need to focus one person on doing just this. And Mike talks about the development fund that, the funds that we budget for them. Maybe we should be putting $10,000 in there, and that's money for them to take people out to lunch and make connections and help. When you've got a coffee shop, there's a person in the city that comes and helps you figure out how to get this coffee shop going. And when you're stumbling around and you're not sure, we've got people that are really dedicated to that. So that's something that, that question sparked, that in my mind of like, yeah, maybe we've missed the boat here because of sort of leaning on a resource that's in our community, but it's not working the way we maybe want it to. So then, leading out away from that is Noah went to a Cincinnati Areas Managers Association meeting, and that's with all the different city administrators and community people. There was a presentation put on by the NKU Center for Economic Analysis and Development, and this was the economy in an era of uncertainty. And he forwarded this on to me, and I pulled a few things out. One of the things that I get hit with a lot, it seems like recently, is why do we need so many new apartments in Norwood? Why are we building all these apartments in Norwood? And if you walk along the Wasson Way and see the trail house, it's huge. Both of those buildings, you're like, oh, wow. Well, this study shows, and this is based on the Cincinnati metropolitan area, the housing units needed is 181,193 is what their shortage, their structural shortage is. And for housing units authorized this next year, it's 25,748 is what their projected is. So that's still a shortfall of about 156,000 in our metro, and we are talking about Northern Kentucky and Cincinnati, and it's a big area, but 156,000 housing units short. And I look at it, I've got a brother-in-law that needs housing that is over 55. He's older than me. He's needs housing, and really there's no place open for them to go. So this new development that we're doing right here is much needed in our community and in our area, and this new housing is much needed in the region. So that's the important part. Then they dug a little bit deeper into the economic forces and what's going on. And one of the slides was a revenue outlook. And I know we have been talking a lot about the finances of the city, and we've talked a lot about the fiscal recovery, the financial recovery plan. And it said, revenue growth was likely to slow but not collapse, more volatility than before on revenue, and timing becomes less predictable. So James Bonzo was talking about just this. There's some volatility, and we've got to do more refunds, and there's some predictions that companies are making that maybe they're not hitting. The issue may not be declining revenues, rather it's slower and less predictable growth. So the hardest decisions right now they're saying in this is staffing and capital and the budget. And then workforce challenges, the study talked about hiring remaining difficult. Aging workforce continues. There's still an aging workforce. We see that within the city. We see that in both private and public sector. And they are competing. Private and public sector are absolutely competing for people. So it's the labor shortage is not going to go away, not in our lifetime. And this can be indicative of the baby boomer generation. And you think about all those people there, and they held on through COVID. And then because they were getting ready to retire, and then COVID struck, and then they were like, okay, I'll hold on. And then they did retire. So we're still running into a ton of that. Infrastructure and capital planning, and this is something that even Mike hit on it, and I'm sure if you pull the chief up and you're talking about the fire truck, for the next few years, there will be higher borrowing costs. Projects will be more expensive. I think Mr. Girton, Councilman Girton, you talked a little bit about that, about the expenses. Timing of decisions matter more. The cost of waiting and the cost of building are going to be higher in the future. We discussed purchasing the land from Norfolk Southern. 20 years ago, we were going to purchase that land from Norfolk Southern, and it was too expensive, and we really didn't have the money or wherewithal to get it. It's still very expensive, and it's not going to it didn't get cheaper. It's not like they just sat on it and said, oh, we'll hold that price for you for 20 years. It's gotten way more expensive. We talked about in the financial recovery plan doing some strategic purchasing of land for future needs, and now's the time to do it. If we wait until later, it's going to be much more expensive, and we might not be able to get hold of it. So, housing and community pressure, the shortage, development may slow, but shortage remains. Pressure on affordability continues, which we all recognize. So. It was a really interesting, as I read through the presentation, it was an interesting presentation that had some good stuff with it. If you want to talk more about it, you can contact Noah, and he can probably get you up to speed on a little bit more of the stuff. So, and then we've got some interesting ordinances that need this. Well, I don't know how much you're going to need to discuss it. You've discussed the fire truck purchase quite a few times and the appropriation of the expenditures. But did I mention that there's a cleanup this Saturday? So tell your friends, call your organizations that you're involved in. Please let them know. If you have kids, we will have a form there that we can fill out for them that talks about how they did 2 hours worth of community service or 3 hours worth of community service, and we'll give that to them so they can take it to whatever reason they need to have community service hours. So please, tell a friend, and that's all I have.
All right. Any questions for Mayor Schneider? All right. Mr. Miracle.
Thank you, Mr. President. Last week, our Deputy Auditor, Dr. Sharon Cambisi, took the opportunity to attend the Local Government Officials Conference in Columbus. It was a 3-day event, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, filled with classes, and she came back, reported that it was well worth the trip. And something that we anticipate doing that on an annual basis. So there was a lot of exciting classes about estimated certificate of resources and some financial statements and tax budget information. You had the opportunity to choose the classes that you wanted to, so she kind of pick those classes, but also some credits that she earned for that as well. So we're glad she did that. And as Mayor Schneider was talking about the FRP, this Thursday morning, the Financial Recovery Planning Commission meets to approve the FRP, and also the lease purchase for the tiller. And then that very same afternoon, 4 o'clock, we're going to be closing with the bank on that lease purchase for that tiller. And just to remind everyone, tremendous savings for the city. It's roughly $2 million, thanks to Chief McCabe and his staff for that. I think it's been several months, been working on this tirelessly, so we're really excited about that. And then next Wednesday, April the 1st, we're meeting again with the Shared Resource Center. I shared that the last meeting that we were out. We're working with them to assist us with the report on accounting methods. And my discussion with them today, they're very aggressive on this timeline. They shared that they will have 3 drafts for us to review. Mr. Provins and Mr. Gurton have kindly volunteered to sit in on that with us, so we're looking forward to that. So we're going to meet with them next Wednesday, and see where we're at with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Miracle? All right. Mr. Gary, anything from the law department?
Nothing that I want to report.
All right, that works.
Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Gary? All right. Then we will move on to introductory readings of ordinances and resolutions. And the first is an ordinance adopting and authorizing a street naming and numbering policy to ensure public health, safety, and general welfare, as well as effective transportation navigating within the city. Mr. Gurton.
Make a motion that we have the first reading of the ordinance.
Motion by Mr. Gurton to have the first reading of the ordinance. Mr. Moore.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Moore. Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Franzen,
Yes.
Mr. Provins,
Yes.
Mrs. Bowling,
Yes.
Mr. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Gurton.
Yes.
Ms. Sullivan.
Yes.
All members present voting yes, the motion carries. Please have the first reading of the ordinance.
An ordinance adopting and authorizing a street naming and numbering policy to ensure public health, safety, and general welfare, as well as effective transportation navigation within the city.
Thank you. The next item is an ordinance amending ordinance number 4-2026, authorizing the Safety Service Director or his designee to enter into a contract with Home Trust Bank for the lease purchase of a 2017 Pierce HT 100A ladder fire truck and declaring an emergency. Mrs. Bowling.
I move that we suspend the rules and have all 3 readings.
Motion by Mrs. Bowling to suspend the rules and have all 3 readings of the ordinance. Mrs. Franzen.
I second.
Seconded by Mrs. Franzen. Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Franzen,
Yes.
Mr. Provins,
Yes.
Mrs. Bowling,
Yes.
Mr. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Gurton,
Yes.
Ms. Sullivan.
Yes.
All members present voting yes, the motion carries. Please have all 3 readings of the ordinance.
Ordinance amending ordinance number 4-2026, authorizing the Safety Service Director or his designee to enter into a contract with Home Trust Bank for the lease purchase of a 2017 Pierce HT 100A ladder fire truck and declaring an emergency. Ordinance amending ordinance number 4-2026, authorizing the Safety Service Director or his designee to enter into a contract with Home Trust Bank for the lease purchase of a 2017 Pierce HT 100A ladder fire truck and declaring an emergency. Ordinance amending ordinance number 4-2026, authorizing the Safety Service Director or his designee to enter into a contract with Home Trust Bank for the lease purchase of a 2017 Pierce HT 100A ladder fire truck and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. Mrs. Bowling.
I move that we pass the ordinance.
Motion by Mrs. Bowling to pass the ordinance. Ms. Sullivan.
I second.
Seconded by Ms. Sullivan. Any discussion? Mr. Moore.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have just a few clarifying questions. I'm not sure if perhaps Chief might be or perhaps Mr. Zimmerman. One, I guess, was just as it pertains to the matter of clarifying the lease purchase component. I guess just mechanically, how is that different as it pertains to the auditor of state asking about that?
Mr. Zimmerman.
So there was some discussion back and forth between the Auditor of State. There's some specific provisions that would need to happen. They just wanted clarification on whether or not this was a loan or a lease purchase. This is definitely a lease purchase. The original ordinance that was passed for 2026, the attached exhibit said lease, but the ordinance itself mentioned loan. a little bit of confusion there. This is just to clarify that this is a lease purchase. If it were a loan, there's some other accounting mechanisms that need to be used to account for expenditures, revenues coming in. So this is not a loan, this is a lease purchase. The Home Trust Bank will actually be cutting a check to our bankers. So we'll not be taking any money into our coffers from Home Trust Bank.
Got it. Okay. And then that was the sort of component about them having the first,
Correct.
or the
And this
collateral.
is just to
if you will.
clarify so that there's no question that this is definitely a lease purchase, not a loan.
Okay, thank you. And then I guess with respect to, I understand as the FRP is set up that we're okay kind of either way in a 2-year plan or the 3-year plan that they were offering. I guess I'm just curious if you all know which we're going to go with, or
It's in the FRP that could be absorbed either of those ways,
Correct.
but it's set up distinctly to pay for the 2-year.
okay, so 2 years and done, and then this sort of addendum with the 3-year schedule is irrelevant.
Correct. And then if you look at the FRP, it'll actually add 1.24 million to our bottom line on the 2030 line at the end of that year.
Okay,
It's good move for the city.
great, thank you.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Motion on the floor by Mrs. Bowling, seconded by Ms. Sullivan, is to pass the ordinance. Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Franzen?
Yes.
Mr. Robbins?
Yes.
Mrs. Bowling?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Girton?
Yes.
Ms. Sullivan?
Yes.
All members present voting yes, the motion carries. Next item is an ordinance making permanent appropriations for the expenditures of the City of Norwood, Ohio for the calendar year ending December 31, 2026, and declaring an emergency. Mr. Girton.
I make a motion that we suspend the rules and have all 3 readings.
Motion by Mr. Girton to suspend the rules and have all 3 readings of the ordinance. Mrs. Franzen.
I second.
Seconded by Mrs. Franzen. Any discussion? Mr. Girton.
Just want to clarify and maybe ask Mr. Miracle to correct me. This is all part of the FRP. This is just doing the accounting work to transfer over the funds. But this is all what we passed last time. So it's all just a matter of transferring the keys. Thank you, sir.
I was distracted. Otherwise, I'd have called you out of order.
I don't know why.
Mr. Miracle.
Thank you. You are correct, sir.
Any other discussion or questions? All right, motion on the floor by Mr. Girton, seconded by Mrs. Franzen, is to suspend the rules and have all 3 readings of the ordinance. Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Franzen?
Yes.
Mr. Robbins?
Yes.
Mrs. Bowling?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Girton?
Yes.
Ms. Sullivan?
Yes.
All members present voting yes, the motion carries. Please have all 3 readings of the ordinance.
Ordinance making permanent appropriations for the expenditures of the City of Norwood, Ohio for the calendar year ending December 31st, 2026, and declaring an emergency. Ordinance making permanent appropriations for the expenditures of the City of Norwood, Ohio for the calendar year ending December 31st, 2026, and declaring an emergency. Ordinance making permanent appropriations for the expenditures of the City of Norwood, Ohio for the calendar year ending December 31st, 2026, and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. Mrs. Franzen.
I move we pass the ordinance.
Motion by Mrs. Franzen to pass the ordinance. Mr. Moore.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Moore. Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Franzen?
Yes.
Mr. Provins?
Yes.
Mrs. Bowling?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Girton?
Yes.
Ms. Sullivan?
Yes.
All members present voting yes, the motion carries. Last item is an ordinance authorizing the mayor and safety service director to enter into an electric aggregation agreement with an electric supplier recommended by Energy Alliances, Inc., the community's energy aggregation consultant, and to enter into subsequent agreements with regard to this program to stabilize and to reduce costs as needed and declaring an emergency. Mr. Girton.
Make a motion that we suspend the rules and have all 3 readings.
Motion by Mr. Garten to suspend the rules and have all three readings of the ordinance. Mrs. Bowling.
I'll second.
Seconded by Mrs. Bowling. Any discussion? Mr. Garten.
Mr. President, if you will indulge me for a moment, I am extremely eager to pass this. In researching the agenda packet, I looked up my own Duke bill to see what I was paying. Apparently, a couple of years ago, I switched over because somebody solicited me and it seemed like a good deal at the right time. I have since then not checked and paid any attention. So I did some math and looked at my most recent bill. If I would have stuck with Norwood's aggregation prices, last month alone, I would have saved $113. I keep my house at 65 degrees because I'm very averse to paying high energy costs. And so I'm sure that there are people who like their house warmer. And if you were paying the same price that I would, you'd be saving a lot more than $113. So I appreciate the mayor's administration and making sure that we have these prices. If you don't do anything and you're part of Duke's typical plan, you're automatically opted into this program. And the mayor's office basically has negotiated a price for us that all of Norwood gets to take advantage of. And so this should be a significant savings for everybody in Norwood. I will thank you for your time and end my soapbox.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All right. The motion on the floor by Mr. Garten, seconded by Mrs. Bowling, is to suspend the rules and have all three readings of the ordinance. Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Franzen.
Yes.
Mr. Provence.
Yes.
Mrs. Bowling.
Yes.
Mr. Moore.
Yes.
Mr. Garten.
Yes.
Ms. Sullivan.
Yes.
All members present voting yes, the motion carries. Please have all three readings of the ordinance.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor and safety service director to enter into an electric aggregation agreement with an electric supplier recommended by Energy Alliances, Inc., the community energy aggregation consultant, and to enter into subsequent agreements with regard to this program to stabilize and to reduce costs as needed and declaring an emergency. An ordinance authorizing the mayor and safety service director to enter into an electric aggregation agreement with an electric supplier recommended by Energy Alliances, Inc., the community's energy aggregation consultant, and to enter into subsequent agreements with regard to this program to stabilize and to reduce costs as needed and declaring an emergency. An ordinance authorizing the mayor and safety service director to enter into an electric aggregation agreement with an electric supplier recommended by Energy Alliances, Inc., the community's energy aggregation consultant, and to enter into subsequent agreements with regard to this program to stabilize and to reduce costs as needed and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. Mr. Garten.
Make a motion that we pass the ordinance.
Motion by Mr. Garten to pass the ordinance. Ms. Sullivan.
I second.
Seconded by Ms. Sullivan. Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Franzen.
Yes.
Mr. Provence.
Yes. Yes.
Mrs. Bowling.
Yes.
Mr. Moore.
Yes.
Mr. Garten.
Yes.
Ms. Sullivan.
Yes.
All members present voting yes, the motion carries. Moving on to unfinished business. Mr. Provence.
I have two things from the Law, Ordinance, Environment, and Public Safety Committee. I think I'm just going to call it LOEPS, maybe in the future. The first one, last time we met, we were given a task to look at the council rules regarding timing, and the committee discussed, and we felt it might be best to have that discussion in this environment because we left our administration team out of the consideration. So to catch everybody up, we're looking at moving the time of council starting to 7, if I'm correct. And we just want to make sure that everyone that's sitting here tonight is okay with that time and it works with everyone's schedule before we submitted a edited rules of council draft.
All right, so I will defer to those of you. Mayor Snyder, any objections to a 7 p.m.?
I have no objection.
All right, Mr. Miracle, you're,
No, sir. That sounds great.
all right. Mr. Gary?
No objection from the law department.
All right.
Excellent. Well, we will then submit a draft next meeting. The other item, the charter fell off our unfinished business from my motion last time, so I'm just going to mention it. It didn't go away, so it is sitting down in the Low-Ups Committee. We're discussing it and kind of talking about a communication plan and making sure we get the word out. We just want to make sure that residents are well aware and have a platform and they kind of understand what's going on. So this is not us deciding that we're going to completely change our government and establish a new charter. This is us putting forward that we believe the residents should decide whether or not a charter should be drafted. So we're looking at November 3rd election. That would then put the question forward, should a commission be established to draft a charter? If the vote is yes, then the commission will set out for a year to draft a charter, and then that charter will actually end up on the election ballot again the following year. Alongside that, there also has to be 15 people within the community at a minimum to run for the commission. So it's kind of a two vote. You're going to vote for a commissioner and then also whether or not to establish a commission. Feel free to email me if you have any questions on the charter. I'm trying to get the word out so people are well informed on what they're voting on. Again, council doesn't have the authority to change the city to a charter, but we at least want to give the residents an option if that's what they would like. That's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Garten.
If I may add to what Mr. Province said, one of the issues is that the committee, and if I'm correct, is going to hold on to this potential ordinance for several weeks. It needs to be, if we as council want to approve it, it needs to be approved 120 days before the election. And so it would not be helpful to give it to council now. And so it's going to sit in our Law and Ordinance, Environment, Public Safety Committee for a couple more weeks, several more weeks until the timing works out. And then our current intention is to pass it on to council as our last discussion.
Thank you. Any other? Mrs. Bowling.
Thank you, Mr. President. I mentioned this a few weeks ago, but we now have a date, so I'm just giving everyone a reminder. I have been working with the Government Relations Office at Xavier and Norwood together on seeing what we can do to help mitigate some of the congestion of traffic on Montgomery Road after basketball games. And so we are hosting a little community conversation. It's going to be at the Community Center, which is at 1810 Cortland, on Thursday, April 2nd from 5:30 to 6:30. So there will be a brief presentation and then an opportunity to share your thoughts. I'm especially interested in getting folks who will be most directly impacted by this if it goes through. If you are living along Williams, on that side of Montgomery especially, the change that we are looking at making is, if you are familiar with the top lot closest to the stadium, is calling it a stadium correct? Arena, thank you. Stadium felt wrong. You know, I'm not a sports girl. But temporarily removing the bollards at the end of Mentor right there that look like an exit point but don't function that way, and redirecting about 186 vehicles from that lot down Williams to Montgomery. So it would be a brief uptick in traffic on Williams, but it should help with the overall congestion in the area. And the great news is that the Xavier's police are willing to handle all of it. So anyway, we haven't made any decisions or anything, but we would love to have folks who could be impacted by that come give feedback and share their thoughts before it goes any further.
Thank you. Any other unfinished business? Ms. Sullivan.
The Ward 4 newsletter is still going strong. We just published our March edition of it. So if you are interested in checking out some more information on the community cleanup, the Substack address is Sullivan, the number 4, Norwood, and take a look at it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other unfinished business? All right, moving on to new business. Any new business? Mrs. Franzen.
Yes, I had 2 things. One is that on April 1st, there is a composting class at the community center that is sponsored by the Hamilton County Resource. That's at 6:30 p.m. April 1st, and the cafeteria at the community center. Then there is the Compost Hub grand opening at 10 a.m. on April 2nd at Lower Millcrest. So if you want to come learn how to compost and then compost stuff yourself, that weekend will be the one for you. And the Norwood Library has free tree saplings. Do you still have are they still there?
Still, we'll be getting them on the 20th.
Okay, in 4 days, there will be free tree saplings at the library. So, nice. It's a perfect time to plant.
All right, thank you. Any other new business? I will throw one thing out there, and that is regarding the Trex, the liquor license transfer that through for Shake Shack in Rookwood. I believe you all were copied on the email. I'm not aware of any objections that came through. The attorneys representing them actually forwarded that information on, and I believe Mr. Moore will be the one signing off on that. But I did just want to confirm that there were no objections from members of council prior to him doing so. Okay, thank you. Any other new business? All right, then we move on to communications. The first is a letter from Mayor Schneider regarding, actually, it's just the Arbor Day proclamation.
Okay.
Did you want for this to be read?
Sure.
Okay.
City of Norwood Office of the Mayor proclamation. Whereas in 1872, the Nebraska Board of Agriculture proposed that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees, and whereas the holiday called Arbor Day was first absorbed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska, and whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world, and whereas trees can reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cut heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce life-giving oxygen, and provide a habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, beautify our community, and wherever they are planted are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. Now, therefore, I, Victor Schneider, by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Norwood, state of Ohio, do hereby proclaim April 24, 2026 as Arbor Day in Norwood, Ohio.
Thank you. Mr. Moore,
Motion that we receive and file that communication.
is there a second? Mrs. Bowling,
I'll second.
seconded by Mrs. Bowling. Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Franzen,
Yes.
Mr. Probbins,
Yes.
Miss Bowling,
Yes.
Mr. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Girton,
Yes.
Miss Sullivan.
Yes.
All members present voting yes, the motion carries. And the last item is a communication from Ken Miracle Auditor regarding a letter to council. Mrs. Bowling.
Move that we receive and file the communication as if read.
Motion by Mrs. Bowling to receive and file the communication as if read. Mrs. Franzen.
I second.
Seconded by Mrs. Franzen. Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Franzen,
Yes.
Mr. Probbins,
Yes.
Mrs. Bowling,
Yes.
Mr. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Girton.
Yes.
Miss Sullivan.
Yes.
All members present voting yes, the motion carries. We do have one absent member. Mrs. Bowling.
I move that we excuse Mrs. Hoover's absence.
Motion by Mrs. Bowling to excuse Mrs. Hoover's absence. Is there a second? Mrs. Franzen.
I second.
Seconded by Mrs. Franzen. Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Franzen.
Yes.
Mr. Probbins,
Yes.
Mrs. Bowling.
Yes.
Mr. Moore.
Yes.
Mr. Girton.
Yes.
Miss Sullivan.
Yes.
All members present voting yes, the motion carries. Mr. Girton.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Motion by Mr. Girton to adjourn. Is there a second? Mrs. Bowling.
Yes, a second. I agree.
All right. Seconded by Mrs. Bowling. Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Franzen.
Yes.
Mr. Probbins,
Yes.
Mrs. Bowling.
Yes.
Mr. Moore.
Yes.
Mr. Girton.
Yes.
Miss Sullivan.
Yes.
All members present voting yes, the motion carries. This meeting is hereby adjourned.